Welcome to the Rocky Mountain AI Interest Group. The following presentation, Vibe Coding, was recorded in September 2025 on CU Boulder's East Campus. Presentations were made by Thomas Olson, Nima Keivan, and Michael Hedgpeth. Chapter markers are provided below in the description field for you to navigate to each of these presentations.
So let me introduce our first speaker, and I'll ask Nabil to switch over the AV here. Our first session is with Thomas Olson. As I mentioned, he's COO at Imaginary Space, and he's going to share how AI is transforming both enterprise software and also letting anybody build. He has built production-ready AI apps for multimillion-dollar brands like Dude Wipes and Betr Health, and previously helped develop Messenger at Meta, which is now used by billions worldwide. In this session, he's going to showcase real-world results and lead a live build revealing how AI delivers speed, creativity, and measurable business impact. Please join me in welcoming Thomas Olson.
Oh, hello. Welcome, everyone. I've got a jam-packed little vibe session for you all. If you want to scan this QR code, you can start chatting. I'm going to hide this in a second, so scan it now. And it will help me get the creative juices flowing. So basically what I'm going to do is go through some of the process of vibe coding. And as we're doing that, I want to vibe code something with you live. So it'd be great if anyone can hop in and send any fun chats or prompts that you think I should add as I'm chatting. In general, like he said, I am from Imaginary Space. We are the top lovable agency in the world. We've been there since the beginning. Before it was called Lovable, it was called GPT Engineer. We helped with, sorry. Oh no, I don't know if I can. This is the first time I've used this on Canva, so let's see if I. It looks like some are getting in. I'm not sure. Well, the code is here if you need to use the code. Anyway, so as I was saying, I've been there since the beginning with Lovable. I know Anton pretty well and his team. We do live building sessions on YouTube and Twitch and all the other platforms with them all the time, with Anton and others. We like to curate an awesome community. So in general, if you guys have Discord, I know all the gamers around here probably do. We like to vibe there. And if you ever need any support, Lovable has a really active Discord community, not just about vibe coding, but if you have any questions, I always recommend jumping in there and just asking, because it's kind of like the old Stack Exchange for those who are used to coding by hand. We used to all jump in and ask questions and help each other out. So that community exists, and I would take advantage of it if any of you are non-coders, or if you are even a coder, just looking to solve problems with AI. All right, I'm going to tell you a little story about how I found, oh, my battery's about to die. We'll see, hopefully it survives. Otherwise, grab my backpack. Scan the QR code. I'm gonna hide it now. You guys can get in with that if you haven't already. Let me. Ooh. Oh no! What just happened? Oh, sorry. Oh, there we go. Hide. There we go. Oh, thank you. Yeah, that'll do. Okay, so I don't know, about a year ago, I reached out in the Lovable community asking anyone if they wanted to code something in a day. And I said we're going to build a small micro SaaS and see if it's possible to actually vibe code it. It took 4 days, unfortunately. So a little bit more time than I was expecting. I don't know where to plug that in. But we managed to build something with with AI and only with AI. So it was pretty cool. And sorry, a little distracting. Here we go. One sec.
Sweet.
All right. Cool. Thanks, guys. Awesome. All right. Okay, so my co-founder and I, Harry, we met on the Lovable Discord. I reached out asking if anyone would, all good, yeah, thank you, would help me build something. So we built this little micro startup, which still makes some cash flow, which is really fun. It's not our main business, but it proved a point that we could actually build something without completely custom coding everything like we normally do. He comes from game development. I come from traditional software development in enterprise. The community has really grown since then. And in general, I want to go through and show you the process that allows us to make production-ready web applications for enterprise or anything else. And I'm going to start asking you guys some questions to start building. But there are three main pillars that we like to focus on: style guide, backend integration, in this case with Supabase, and in general version control. Using GitHub for those non-coders out there, it's really important to have some version control so you can always roll back, whether it's in your database or with Git. So everyone in the chats, I'm going to jump out and let's build something live. So if you guys can think of any cool ideas, throw them in the chat and give me some prompts. And let's see what we can build. Hold on. Okay. Let's see, a poetic visualization. Ooh. Nice. A game we can play tonight. Whoa, so many. Okay. Can you all see the chats? You can. Maybe you pick one. So there's too many to keep track of. I'm going to take 2 minutes to pick, and then I'm going to talk about, in general, the spaghetti that can happen, and I'll jump into these things. But OK, so one of the things that I really like to start with, in general, in a project, obviously we want this general idea out there. Are we building a whole platform? Are we building a little game, something like that? But what you want in production are components that are reusable and maintainable. So you're not actually spending tons of time refactoring every page. So every little box that you see or button or something like that, you can often get a lot of spaghetti when you're vibe coding, where you have tons of these different components and they all look different. And in reality, we don't actually want that. An aesthetic thing is really nice. And also in the backend. So if there's any components in your backend running or edge functions or cron jobs, you really want to have a structure around all of those. So I'll show you a quick little example of a style guide, one that is in production. OK, so just building initial style guide page really helps for this. So we can get all of the little nuances. This is a pretty simple one, trying to keep it simple for you guys. And this application that we built is pretty cool. We can talk about it after if anyone wants more details on it. But let's see. All right, let me see what you guys came up with. And then I'll jump into Lovable. All right. What did you choose?
It's a little biased because I'm applying for jobs myself, but there was one that was creating Workday accounts to apply for jobs.
Creating Workday accounts?
Yeah, because for each individual job, you have to create a Workday account for that specific company.
What's Workday? I've never used that. OK, well, So Workday accounts. So what's the main idea of creating Workday accounts? Like, are we distributing your resume?
Yeah, so it's a tool that automatically makes Workday accounts and applies to jobs for you.
Okay.
Out of curiosity, do you want it fully automated or do you want human in the loop checkpoints?
Good question.
I guess checkpoints would make sense. I don't know if
There's a lot of fully auto tools out there that like to each their own. I was just curious.
Okay, well, this is a decent, like, small, short prompt to get started. Very valid point, though. We should be thinking about these things. There's probably some data integration that we might need and APIs as well. But this is often, what you're going to do is jump in with your major idea. In general, I actually like to start from scratch. So I'll ask Lovable, just give me a blank project. Because I know that whenever you try to one-shot prompt anything, our later speaker hopefully has a solution for this. But Lovable's iterative process is baked in, so we'll see what we get. But I always like to start with the basics. So I'll say, like, all right, give me a blank project, then give me a style guide. Let's build the style guide so I don't have to worry about ever refactoring that. And then we'll get to, like, the main idea. And in general, if there's any data integration, so in this case, I don't know if you know that there's an API out there, but I would search, maybe go ahead and search ChatGPT and be like, hey, is there a API provider that will, give me the data that I need or something like that? All right, so while this is loading, I'll go into a bit more detail. Okay, so the Supabase integration in Lovable is awesome, and in general, being able to have your backend in a visual way for non-coders, I think, is really nice. So I would heavily rely on that. Within Supabase.
What's Supabase?
Never heard of it. All right. So Supabase is a site where you can it's kind of like Firebase. You can host a backend database and run it. You still have to serve your stuff on something like Savala or another server-side thing, but you can quickly and easily bring in a database and visualize it so you can see what tables are in there, every item that's in your tables, everything like that. But you can go to supabase.com and check it out if you want to. But I'll show you the integration in Lovable in a second. So similar to like AWS or any other server-side providers, Supabase will give you all these things that you need for security, like RLS, so row-level security on all of your tables. You've got everything from like being able to do edge functions, cron jobs. So any of these automations that you're going to be coding, they're usually something like an edge function, and it goes from there. So I don't know. Hopefully that answers your question. And then in general, there's GitHub integration, so version control. Like I was saying, you want to be able to roll back if you make a mistake. That's really helpful whenever you're vibe coding, I think. Whenever you do these longer prompts especially, you'll end up finding, sometimes there's some spaghetti and it's like, oh man, I don't know what just happened. It's best to roll back to the version is actually working. So if you are having that trouble of a few errors in the mix, and then you finally get it working, or you just kind of I don't know, I spent 30 minutes here trying to get it to work and it's not. And that version control component is really important. Okay, so what did you come up with?
I found an API.
Okay.
It has a free 250 jobs a month that you can build. called fantastic.jobs.
Okay, fantastic.jobs. Okay, so in Lovable, there's also this chat feature. So I recommend using this a lot so you can actually go through and see if this is actually viable, and it will come up with a technical plan and rollout for you. So, especially for non-coders, it's like, I don't know where to even start. You can just start by chatting and asking questions. So in this case, let's ask if does fantastic.jobs have an API that might make this easier? Okay, so in general, whenever you're doing that one-shot prompts, you're probably going to have like a bit of a landing page. There's some things that looks pretty bad at first, but it uses the same shadcn library that most of these editors are using. So you've got at least a little clickable wireframe that you can play around with and try to figure out, is this actually what I want to build? Whenever you're going through and developing, though, something that heavily we rely on, in this case, there's not going to be a lot of logs in here. But if you're running into errors and any of those like hardline stops, go through, there's probably going to be some errors in your console. And if there's not, you can ask it to add some logs. This is typically like what a software developer will do, is add some console logs and figure out what the problem is. So if the button is not actually working, in this case, the first shot is probably not going to be functional with Lovable because they don't have a lot of back-end integration right off the bat. But if I were to create this, I'm going to kind of skip through because I don't know if we're actually going to have enough time for this. Looks like we're already at 15 minutes. So you can add Supabase integration here, where you can connect a Supabase instance. I'll show you one that's active here. So the one, the example that I was showing you, I've got it connected. I have all of my database, auth, storage, everything set up so I can do logins, I can do all sorts of things. In general, whenever I'm actually going through and developing things, if I'm running into issues, in this case, they're all green, they're 200, which is great, but you can look at all of the logs, and these are really telling of what is the actual problem that you're trying to solve. So if you're like, okay, I just want this button to work, or I want this one function to happen, or an API call once you connect the API, and for some reason it keeps failing, and you can see in the console like I just opened up with my inspector, but also here in Supabase, you'll see like the actual logs that are being output. And you'll go through and you can just basically copy and paste those into Lovable and ask some questions with it, or use the chat feature and say, hey, what's the problem here? Is there a clever solution to get past it? And it'll run through and get you closer to that point. So whatever it is, in this case, an API gateway. And here we go. Wait, hold on. Let me check. Let's see where your prompt went. So it came up with a decent plan. Let's see. We don't offer. Yeah, it's going to tell you basically like, what is this application? What is it? If we had more time, I would actually go in depth with all these things and we'd build something pretty and useful. But time is limited, so in general, like using any AI tools, whether it's Lovable or something else, I think at this point, it's hard to get that one shot, one solution. I'd love to see it, and if anyone's building it, let me see it. I want to test it. But this iterative process is kind of how us developers are going through and figuring out, okay, what's the problem? What's the solution? So always being open-minded. It's like it's an opportunity to learn. And if you don't know as a non-developer, like how any of this is working, it's always good to just ask questions. So this has access to the entire code base. So you can ask it any questions and try to be as specific as possible whenever you're making changes. So using like specifically the name of the component if you can. So every time it makes a code edit, it's going to show you the code changes that it made. And you can actually look and get used to what component is actually there. So in this case, it's dashboard.tsx. That's the main component that you're going to be seeing, but there's also a hero section. It's all built in React, which relies on this like component-heavy library set. And yeah, we go through and you can kind of troubleshoot any of the issues that you might have. So you're not banging your head for more than a couple minutes, and it's really fun.
Can you show an example of coding error and then how you solve it?
Let's see. In this case, let's see what it actually has. So I'll go to let me hold on. In this case, I would, if we actually were able to build more, I would run through those things. In general, we do a lot of live sessions, so you're welcome to join any of those, and I would totally go into the details a bit more. But yeah.
I have a couple questions.
One sec. Let me finish. So let me run through a little bit about us, and then I'm going to have a couple minutes for questions.
Sorry, in general, I think we'll hold questions till the Q&A at the very end.
Yeah, but drop them in the chat as well if you want. After I'm done talking, I can add any questions and answers there as well. Okay, so kind of getting a little snapshot. We're not, we don't have all the time in the world in this case, but trying to give you like a couple building blocks that you can go and take away from this. So whether you're using Lovable or some other editor, generally this is how things are built. I'd love to see one-shot prompts happen all the time, but in general, always remember to ask. Look at your console logs. Try to prompt engineer as best you can, even whenever you're making AI tools in particular that actually leverage like OpenAI or something like that. Going in and looking at the prompts that actually make that happen, and then just look at some examples you may find online, or ask AI to actually create them for you, and then iterate. With any automations, utilize cron jobs, edge functions in this case with Lovable. They go a long way. So if there's something is supposed to happen every day at a certain time, if you're like querying some data, say like, I want to know all the news related things that are happening in the US. Sometimes there are things where you can actually like get an email for those things, but you can run a cron job to look at all of your emails, find the subject line, and then pull all the data, even if you don't have an API or something like that. And then if you know that I'm going to get that email every day for every week, Monday through Friday, you run a cron job to actually go through and query the data and save it in the database. And then in general, like looking at your edge function logs, those go a long way. They'll get you to the solution a little bit faster because you'll see exactly what's wrong. And then in general, adding context. So Lovable as a tool and other code editors as well. They have a context window that you can always bring in. So you have a knowledge base. You can add anything into the knowledge base. If you're bringing in API documentation, I recommend bringing in the docs so you don't have to read through all of them and understand it fully. And it'll speed up your process to actually get those integrated really fast. Okay, so that's about it for demoing with Lovable, and in general, trying to give you some tools that you can run with. It's the fastest growing startup in the EU. They're growing massively. They're also hiring if anyone needs a job. Some jobs require you to be in Stockholm, but happy to be their evangelist and kind of get the word out there for you guys. So I work for Imaginary Space Studio. We are the top Lovable partner. And in general, we're a consulting firm that deals with AI-related things. We build things like multi-million-dollar startups like Dude Wipes, all the way to that solo founder, anyone looking for help or looking for an MVP to be built in a really short amount of time. I'm going to go through a few of the things that we built. Next up is a little video of some of our capabilities. Enjoy. It's going to be a theatrical experience.
So our next speaker is Nima Keivan, and I just want to tell a story. Nima and I had lunch over 2 years ago, and he came out of CU Robotics Lab. He had built a warehouse robot company and sold it to Amazon. So I was asking him, what's next? This is August of 2023, I think. And he goes, okay, I'm starting a company where you just describe the software that you want built, and I'm going to build that software. And I'm like, I don't get it. Like, I don't know how this works. And so over the intervening 2 years, these products have started landing, these Vibe, and it's like, that's what Nima was talking about 2 years ago. So Nima's co-founder and CEO of Durable. He's going to talk about challenges and opportunities in building flexible and reliable software without code for the enterprise. As I mentioned before Durable, he was co-founder and CTO of Canvas Technology, a Boulder-based startup developing vision-based autonomous mobile robots for manufacturing and logistics, which was bought by Amazon. After Amazon, he joined Xplorer Capital, helping the team source and assess early-stage startup deals in deep tech, AI, and sustainability. He holds a PhD from CU Boulder right here, where he researched visual perception and control for agile autonomous vehicles. Please join me in welcoming Nima Keivan.
Just checking, you guys can hear me okay? Yeah. All right, thank you, Dan, for the wonderful intro and for having me. So I'm Nima, co-founder and CEO of Durable.ai. As Dan said, we've been thinking about this for a long time, and let me tell you, there is such a thing as being too early to something. Ask me how I know. But we're here, and Durable, I'll tell you a little bit more about it later, but it's an autonomous integration platform that enables enterprises to go from plain English requirements to workflow automations and AI agents that automate their manual processes. And because of this, we think a lot about autonomous software development and vibe coding. And to tell you a little bit more about how we think about this, I want to use an analogy. Imagine you want to build a house. And this is top of mind for me because I'm currently going through this process, and I wish it upon nobody, not my worst enemy, but that's what it's a good, other than being top of mind for me, I think it's a good analog to software development because homes are expensive to build. They take a long time to build. They're difficult. If you build one, it's really hard to change it. And we kind of think that they should be easy to build. Like, we've just been building homes for so long. And so the question, if you're a novice at this like me, is like, shouldn't it be a little bit easier? And it's not. It's really hard. And so you come at this process with a rough idea. It's like, okay, I'm crazy enough. I want to build this house, and there's a ton of constraints. So what are you allowed to build? If you're working with a builder, which I hope you are, what can your builder build? And what's your budget? There's all these constraints. So you'll start having some conversation. You'll find some experts, an architect who's knows how to design, a builder who knows how to build, and you'll look at example pictures. You'll come up with some sketches. You'll discuss your high-level details, low-level details, and then you start to form a little bit of a consensus after a while with all these people you're speaking with. Like, what are we actually talking about here? Is there a picture in everyone's mind of what we're building? And at that point, do we just go build the house? No, because it's, even if you managed to get everyone that needs to go and build a house, which is a lot of people, a lot of different people with different expertise, if you manage to get them all on the same page, based on the conversation transcript you had with your architect and your, like the chat log, if you had that, even if you did that, you don't want to walk up to your house for the first time and be like, ta-da, this is what we built. Like, you have no idea at that point. So in actuality, what we do as that next step is we create legible specifications. This is kind of a boring word, but in the legible means that everybody can understand it, meaning me, the non-architect, non-builder, I can look at it, the spec, and be like, I know what we're building here. The architect, obviously, they understand it, they made it, and so does the builder. It's a contract. It serves as codifying that shared consensus between everyone. There are no surprises. It's at the right level of abstraction, meaning it's not specifying where the nails go. Even some things is like where the ducts go. In a commercial building, you'll specify those, but in a residential building, you don't talk about those. The builder, mostly because the owner doesn't care, like how you route the ducting. So it's the right level of abstraction. And, as Thomas was saying, it's version controlled. Very important. Then you go build it. Ta-da, you have a house. Some years down the road, you decide to change your house. You had some kids. You need to add a bedroom. There were some zoning code changes. Maintenance. You go hire another builder, another architect, and they need to know what was built. So they go back to the legible spec, and they can expand on it. What's changing? What's staying the same? And then we add, come up with a new set of plans to build the house. Again, this is top of mind for me, but I'm like, this is a loose analog of how software development typically happens, which is you got stakeholders that create design documents, and then some people go build it, and so on. Now let's vibe build a house. So we start at the same place. I have an idea. I would like to build a house, crazy enough to do this. And next step is we're going to use a magical vibe building tool that lets us go straight from an idea and a little bit of conversation to a kind of almost house. It's a prototype. It doesn't need code. It's not safe to enter and live in. It kind of looks and feels like a house. So now we're here. And then I guess the next step is we look at, we inspect. You kind of walk into this place and you look around and you're like, okay, like where are the bedrooms? Okay, thank you, there's a door here. Look at all the fixtures. But this vibe building tool allows us to just change it by talking to the house or something, something that's listening to us. And so we want a bunch of changes, we talk about it, but every time we change something, a bunch of other things change that are just slightly out of sight. So, I maybe change the bathroom and then I'm not going to go to the second story and there's a new bedroom there. And so there's a kind of an iterative process of like figuring out what we're building here. It's kind of not an exact science. But hey, we can just do this really quickly, rapid iteration. okay, now we want to make the place livable. There's a government involved. There's a county inspector. Like, I want my kids to be in there. Okay, so we have to harden this thing. So now we go and get the architect and get the builder, and now we're spending real money and spending real time. And there's this gap that we have to close from this not quite house to a real house. And because the vibe builder didn't really know the constraints that we had to follow to get to the end, the house we end up with is pretty different than the house we started with. Like, just if it knew those constraints, obviously we wouldn't need to do this hardening step. It might be quite expensive to do this. And then we have this house that we kind of vibe built and then hardened, and we want to make a change. And now there's no source of truth. Like, what do we build here? We can't go back to the vibe builder because it doesn't know what this new version of the house is. So we're now back in the old system where we have to go back to an architect and so on. We kind of broke free of the vibe builder loop. So, like, this is kind of a loose analog to vibe building today, but to me, it highlights two things that I think are holding back vibe software development, vibe coding. And just keep in mind that I really believe in the democratization of software development. Like Dan was saying, there's a huge opportunity there. I've been spending too much time, too many years trying to do this. But I think the first problem is that in all these tools, code remains the source of truth. Code has always been the source of truth in software development, but in these tools is especially the source of truth, right? Something goes wrong, you want to know what you built, you're going back to the code. And so for the people that don't know how to code, you have that problem where you're at the not house, not all the way. And the second problem is that you don't get all the way. So you get to a 75%, and then you have to spend real money and real time to take you to 100%, but then you break out of the cycle of the vibe builder. So the term software rot is real. Software just goes out of date so fast. As fast as you build it, it's out of date. You're constantly monitoring it. You're constantly maintaining it. It's a real problem. And so I think this answers a question that I've had, which is, where are all the vibe-coded apps? I'm not using any, the people I know are not using any. I know there are lots of demos. To me, it's super exciting. It's like kind of, it's a window into what's to come. But I'm interested in what the gaps are. And I think those are the gaps that I was talking about. And I'm also not seeing it in the data. Like, there should be this big spike in domain name registrations, big spike in the number of apps, which we're not seeing. And I think this is partly why. Let me tell you about what Durable is, because we're in part trying to solve these two problems. So what we're building is a lot simpler than what Thomas just showed you, and there's a reason for that. This problem we're currently solving, our beachhead, is the processes that are manual in the enterprise because they span across multiple software packages and they're siloed, and if you want to automate them, you need to write custom software. At the top end of enterprises, people do that. Mid-level, no shot. So you're either, it's mostly done manually. So Durable turns plain English requirements of the kind that we just saw to production-ready integration. So it takes you to 100% in minutes, and enables that rapid iteration. So some of the unique insights that we have is that although everyone has integration problems, not everyone wants to build. There is kind of a builder archetype, the kind of person that can deal with all the mess that comes with building something. And not everyone is like that. And so we have to build for the people that have the integration problems to really scale. That a solution starts with a conversation, remembering that conversation with the architect and the builder where you're just talking about ideas, but then ending at a specification. That's your set of drawings, so that everyone knows what we're building. And that specification, that's the end of the line. That is the piece of software. There's no kind of code just hidden out of sight where that is really the ultimate source of truth. The spec is the source of truth. If you change it, you change the software. So I'm just going to give you a little glimpses into the product as it is. You start with a conversation. This is a little too small to see, but you in this case, we say, I want to create this stand-up, but that this complicated thing with Slack and GitHub and my record manager. And you talk with something we call the durable system, the durable solution architect. It can inspect Durable's capabilities, knows what it can build and what it cannot, and it can guide you to that initial idea, which then gets sent to the builder, and the builder builds the spec and the software together. They have to be built together, because if we just build the spec, we've just sort of imagined it, and then we have to go and see if we can actually make it true. If we, so if we want the spec, we have to build the software, and out of that process can come up, some questions can be raised. We also provide more information than just the text so that you can see what this thing that you've built is going to do. As Dan mentioned, we are building for the enterprise, and a lot of the things that you need for the enterprise are not things you can click around and see if it's working okay. This stuff is long running. There's lots of conditions that have to be met. You're potentially sending stuff out that you can't take back. Imagine sending an email out to a customer. Can't take that back. So we're thinking in terms of what can we provide to a user so that they can build at least a first pass trust. There might be some questions that come out of this. Those questions are contextual to the spec. You can think about you're looking at a drawing of a house. Someone will point at a bedroom and be like, this is a little too small. And you're like, okay, I understand the context of this question. Same here. In the spec, there's, we highlight a section, we take it to the user. The spec is live. It's a live document, so you can highlight a section, ask for a change, and that change will then change the underlying software. If we can, if we cannot, we come up with potentially more questions. And what we realized, and the reason the scope is smaller, is that this has to be autonomous. Otherwise, we drop the user into code, and it's kind of all over. And so to get to this autonomy, we should just about there. We have a limited scope, meaning we're doing these back-end automations that are hooked up to a ton of different software, anything from like systems of record like Salesforce, ServiceNow, to your sort of general G Suite, to issue management, to accounting software. But there is no interface. We have carefully crafted these integrations so we can make some guarantees about it when we build with them. And there's a knowledge base that we have to curate for our agent, for our builder agent, so that it knows what it can or cannot do with the outside systems. We have to build it, we have to prune it, we have to maintain it. And those took a long time. But we are finally at a place where we have launched this with a few select customers, early customers. And also, just because it's been so many years since we started this, we ended up with a wait list that got a little bit out of control, now about 30,000 people. So we've created a new wait list, and you can jump to the start of that wait list if you're interested. We would love to. You can use this to jump and talk to that solution architect. There's also a trial period, a free trial period, where you can build things, hook up your systems, and run the automation. So you're building live software. There's a lot of supervision built in, so you can, before any actions are taken, you can stop it and you can be like, I want to know what you're about to do. And I'll tell you some of the example use cases. In a software engineering team, a company wanted a stand-up organizing agent that messaged everyone in the team in the morning, asked for their update, but then cross-referenced it with the issues that were opened in GitHub, which is a tool for tracking software version control, created a digest. Oh, but some people are late, so they wanted a little bit of extra time for the late arrivers and then for that to be slotted in. This is a very complicated sort of process, but it's their process, and that's what they want. And there's really no other way to get it than to write the custom code. Or there was a accountant that had to spend many hours following up with certain customers to get their credit card statements every month. And they wanted an automated system that would be like, your credit card statement, please, with up to, and this is real, nine retries. which people were doing. So things like that are areas that we're super interested in. So you can use this to log in and try it out. And there's a little buggy at the bottom right. If you talk to that, you're talking to myself, my co-founder, and our team. We are hands-on. Use us for support. Not saying you need it, but we will be there. And that's it. Thanks very much.
Our final speaker is Michael Hedgpeth. He's co-founder of Hedge-Ops Software, and he's going to talk about what scares me about vibe coding. As a technical founder who's built the People Work app using AI tools, he's going to share hard-won lessons about what works and what doesn't in AI-assisted development. Drawing from real-world experience, he'll offer practical advice on harnessing AI's power while avoiding its most seductive traps. Please join me in welcoming Michael Hedgpeth.
Dan? All right, everybody hear me? Thank you so much for having me. This is an exciting and important topic. I'm really excited to be able to contribute to it. Like Dan said, I'm a co-founder of a software company that's trying to help people build better professional connections, whether you're a student or whether you're at a job. We think the future of work is more human than you think. And that's kind of weird saying in front of an AI group, but I think it's humans and robots together. I don't have slides, so hopefully I can keep your attention without them. I'm going to try to be more human with the presentation. But basically, to give you a little context about our business, we have developed this app. The scale of it is 50,000 lines of code so far. Most of that is in Rust. A little bit of that is in Swift. We live in South Boulder. My wife and I are working together on this full time. We quit our jobs about a year ago, so we're doing this full time. And she's right over there, so if you want to hear about that after, we'd love to talk to you about it. And as Dan said, it's never been easy to build. I've been building software for 25 years now. I started out as a Java developer right before 9/11 happened. That's right after I graduated. And I've done all sorts of things through that journey. And it's never been easy to build. It's true. What you're able to create and what we have been able to create with the help of AI has been phenomenal. We're able to do what I think 5 to 10 people would be able to do, just the two of us. And it's fantastic and it's exciting. And the democratization of being able to have a diverse group of people being able to build stuff, and not just the experts, not just the VC-backed people building stuff, is really, really exciting. But the essential elements of building that were true for me 25 years ago when I started out my career are still true today. The tools are way better, but the essential elements of building are exactly the same. And so I'm going to talk through those essential elements of how to build something that is valuable. I'm going to talk about how vibe coding can really help with those things, and I'm going to talk about the dangers of vibe coding within those contexts. And the 5 contexts are, number 1, engagement. It's important to get people to care about what you're doing. Second is trust. It's important to people trust you to hire, that they want to hire you to do a job that they find valuable. Third one is maintainability. You got to keep it going. The fourth one is security. You can't have surprises happen out of nowhere. And the final is humanity. You got to be making the world a better place. So we're going to talk through all 5 of those in the next 17 minutes and 5 seconds. And we're going to talk about how vibe coding can help and sometimes harm those things. So first thing, engagement. This is actually, as we're building our business, the hardest part. Engagement means that you care about what I'm doing. I care about what you're building. This is the most fractured attention landscape of our lifetimes. It is more fractured. It's harder to get in front of people. It's harder to get people to care. And that is actually the hardest part. It's very easy to create a website on Lovable, as we've seen. It's harder to get people to care about that website on Lovable. That's the name of the game, really. And it seems to be on the surface where vibe coding can really shine. You can tell all your friends that you built something over a weekend and it's really awesome, and look at this website, this is awesome. But the hidden trap that I have noticed as we've been building our thing is that AI has a way of subtly disengaging you if you're not careful. If you rely on it for content and messaging or website content or any of that, it ends up being AI slop. It ends up falling flat. Nobody cares. People can subtly understand that this isn't something that they should engage in. They know. If you use it for design, it ends up looking like everybody else's stuff. And that's because of how these technologies have been built. These technologies are basically the lowest common denominator of everything out there. And so what you will produce, if you heavily rely on them, is the lowest common denominator of what's out there. That's why I liked the style guide idea, where you're being intentional about how you want your thing to look, and you're driving it, you're engaging into the design of the thing that you're building, and not just letting it drive the ship, because it'll drive it right into a boring thing. The other thing is, this stuff is really good at making you impressed, but making everybody else not impressed, and you don't know the difference. And so the reality of this situation is that real sustainable engagement is actually about you. It's not about the tool you're using. It's not about how cool it is. It's not about how fast you did it. It's about the thing that you care about. So when you're building, I want to know what you care about. What problem are you interested in solving? What are you engaged in? And when I get that answer, I also want to know that you're not going to delegate that to a robot. Like, I want to know that you care about it. Now, maybe you'll delegate the other stuff off to the side, off to a robot, but the thing you care about, the core problem you're trying to solve, which you're building software for, has to be something that you're engaged in for me to care about it. Second thing, trust. You want me to delegate something to you, a job to be done, and I can trust that you'll get that job done. That's the core element of building. I hire you to do a job. I hire Gmail to do my email. I hire Xero with an X to do my accounting. And when I hire them, they do that job, and they do it every time, and I expect them to do it, and if they don't do it, I fire them. That's trust. And this trust is built on your expertise of your problem. It goes back to the engagement thing, but it's engagement that's built over time. The hope is that AI can enable this. Many of you in the audience are probably experts at something, and you have felt that all the nerds have been holding technology hostage with their VC-backed buddies, and that you can't ever break your expertise into being able to create a solution that's valuable for people. And I invite you to this game. That's awesome. That's fantastic, but you're the expert. The technologies are not the expert, and it's fantastic that vibe coding can help you break into this space and engage within it. But the fear is that sometimes this stuff can become an obstacle to gaining that trust. I've had several conversations since February when this term came out. I vibe coded something. My next question is, great, how does it work? And the common answer is, I have no idea. And that's not a way to gain trust. Now, we don't have to know every piece of everything that we're doing with technology. I don't know how my phone works, really, but I know how to utilize my phone in order to make a valuable outcome in my life. Same with every technology. I don't know assembly language, but I know how to program software. So you don't have to know everything, but you have to be engaged in the problem, and you have to be able to explain it in order for people to trust you. So I encourage people, whenever you're dealing with these tools, to not let them rob you of your engagement. I have to fight this fight every single day, And I have a 25-year background in software. So one thing that I've been doing lately, and this is like not a technology optimized workflow at all. My wife totally poked holes into it yesterday when I was telling her about it. But I write a Google Doc with the context of a problem I'm trying to solve. I print it to PDF. I attach the PDF to Claude. I ask Claude questions. I let it process in my brain. I look away from the prompt. I write into the Google Doc my reactions and responses. I print it again and do it again. And this is my way of trying to protect myself from the pernicious nature of these tools of hacking my brain and not keeping me engaged and in the driver's seat of what I'm trying to build, which ultimately leads to people not being able to trust that I'm the expert that they can hire to do this job, to connect themselves to people in their professional relationships. So as you grow, as you get into this stuff, ask yourself the question, has AI been helping you? Has it been enabling you to have greater expertise or shortchanging it? There's a Society's journal study about cognitive offloading, which basically means that if you choose to delegate your thing to something else, this was, I believe, when people were writing papers. If AI helped them write a paper, guess what? After it was over and they were asked questions about it, nobody knew what it was if AI helped them. If they wrote the paper themselves, they knew exactly what it was. So if the problem you're dealing with is not that important, if you don't have to be the expert, if you don't have to be engaged in it, then great, have AI do it. But when it comes to your core competency, when it comes to what makes you valuable, I highly encourage you to do whatever you can to protect yourself from its disengaging nature. 3 out of 5, maintainability. This is where I get to be a real nerd, because this is where the developers will all say, well, how is it going to go to production? Maintainability is basically you have something, people care about it, people trust you, but how do I know that you can keep doing it? How do I know that it can keep going and it's not just going to fall over? And the hope is maybe you hire others after you've fleshed out your ideas. Maybe you get scaling, VC funding, whatever. It's awesome. But the fear is if you were able to do this thing in a weekend, then I'll tell you something, I was able to do that in a weekend too. We go back to everything we just talked about. It's about you, your problem that you are an expert on, that is the really important bit. So maintainability and the value that you're creating is really about you and your problem that you're solving. But the question, the fear is also that you can basically have to rewrite the thing after it's over. I really like the spec-driven development stuff that the previous speaker was talking about, because you're really protecting yourself to have a solid outcome over time. Maybe that's good, but whatever it is, you have to be honest with yourself about the true value and what it is that you're creating in order to really have something valuable. And so I think another thing about this, like when you're talking about AI tools, they're just really good at hacking your brain into making you think that you're a genius. And you just got to watch out for that. You got to protect yourself from that. You made something in a weekend and the buttons are all purple and that looks good to you, but to everybody else, they see a vibe-coded app, because purple buttons generally mean it's a vibe-coded app. There's a pro tip for you. The fourth thing is security. So you're scaling, you've got a good product, you're building a team, but the problem is the trust you build can be destroyed in just a few minutes. Now, I've spent 25 years in software, and I started my journey out security. These are the rule followers that make me want to slow down. But security is really simple. The security is really about trust. Is anything bad going to happen unexpectedly with this asset that I have? And when you put it that way, that's really important. That's really good. And we all saw what happened with the T app. If you're not familiar, the T app is an app that was meant to help women talk to each other about toxic men in their lives. And that's a great idea. It was a popular idea. Unfortunately, the makers of that idea decided to take all of the driver's license images for all their users as they were verifying that they were women and put them on a folder on the internet without any password protection, which got hacked and actually went against the safety goals of their product. And that's a terrible thing to do to people as a human, is to make them feel safe and then rob them of that safety in an even worse way. And when the weird thing about the TAP thing is it doesn't look like that was vibe coded. It was just, it looks like people were sloppy. So I think that actually some of these vibe coded things can be good in this space. Like Supabase is an awesome platform to build secure authentication and database access. And if you're building a lovable app using Supabase, that's pretty good. And if you stay within that walled garden of a solution that is using simple stuff to do simple stuff, relatively speaking, then you are, relatively speaking, able to accomplish security much better. I think the hard thing that people deal with, and that you end up, that's hard for me to listen to actually, is kind of, there's a lot of magic involved with the AI conversation today, and it's like, I can do anything, I can dream anything. Like some of those ideas were crazy on the chat, and I thought that would never happen. Or it maybe could with several $1 million of investment and a lot of time. But so you can't really be magical about this. It all goes back to understanding your problem and building trust around that problem and keeping your scope constrained into being able to solve a clear problem. The previous speaker did a great job with that. He had a business that he started out with Dan 2 years ago. We're going to build a prompt, and he's working on enterprise workflow automation and using spec-driven development to accomplish that. That's a really great way and a really great illustration of reducing your scope when it comes to having an idea. So the question with security is, am I going to give you my credit card? Am I going to give you my address, my children's information? What are you going to do with that? And let's be good humans to each other and not waste that trust. Last thing is humanity. Will you make the world a better place as a result of what you're building, or be a part of a VC-fueled descent into madness? The hope is, now that the obstacles of technical expertise and VC funding are out of the way, it enables you to move humanity forward. And I really believe that's possible, and that's what my wife and I are working on. We are a bootstrapped, don't have investors company, both of us just building software, me in my shed in my backyard, and her in the basement. We're in different rooms, but we're building every day, and it's just us. And we're doing something that 5 to 10 people would have been able to do 5 years ago, and that's fantastic. But the fear is that something else is going on. And I think that social media can be a cautionary tale for us. 20 years ago, when I started using Facebook, I was excited about connecting with my family. I was excited about seeing that person from high school that I went to and seeing what they were up to. 20 years later, social media has delivered for us isolation, confusion, and division. We hate each other more than ever before. And we have social media, and that was supposed to connect us. What happened? Well, these are advertising companies that want our attention. What does AI want? They want our attention. They want our engagement. And they want to be a part of that, but they do that in a way, just like social media will want your connection and your attention and sell you one thing. AI can sell you engagement, building, democratization, but actually deliver disengagement, dumber people, and nothing to show for it. And I don't want that to be you, and I don't believe it can be you if you follow some of the principles in this talk. For engagement, I want to know that you care about a problem and that you're into it and that you're thinking about it. You're not delegating it to something. For trust, I want to know that I can trust you to deliver on that every single time, and it's reliable. For maintainability, I want to know that you have a plan that if I trust you now, I can trust you 6 months from now if you get double, triple, quadruple, 10 times the customers. For security, I want to know that my driver's license image is not going to be in a database backup file open on the internet in a folder, or whatever it is. I want to know that you'll keep me safe. And for humanity, I want to know that you are making the world a better place and that we're going to do better together. So that's how I think you build, and I think you can build, and I hope you build, and I can't wait to see what you build. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Michael. I'm going to ask all three speakers to come up, and Chris is going to kick off the Q&A with just some guidelines on how we're going to do it. Yeah, we'll have the speakers sit right here. Chris and I will walk mics around. You can use this one, Chris.
Hello, everybody. My name is Chris Brown. I am on the board of directors for the new nonprofit that we set up for RMAIIG. It's really awesome. I've got a bone to pick with Michael here. My company's brand color is purple, so I have purple buttons all over my website, but I built it without vibe coding. I also have an M dash in my bio, and that has been there for like 5 years. I'm just gonna give up. Anyway, we get a lot of feedback about these events, and which is wonderful, by the way. If you have feedback about this event, past events, future events, whatever, send it to Dan Murray, myself, or anybody else on the board, any of the volunteers. A lot of these ground rules we have here are coming out of the feedback that we get. So first of all, Dan and I are going to walk around the room with the microphones. If you have a question, you can raise your hand. We'll try to get to as many questions as we can. First rule of thumb, don't ask a question if you don't have a microphone in your hand. Second guideline here is we only want one question per audience member. Let's try to avoid the, I have a 2-part question, I have a 3-part question stuff. Let's just focus on concise questions so we can move as quickly as possible. The last rule, if you will, we can't get to every question. We try so hard, but look at this crowd. This is awesome. This might be the biggest crowd we've ever had. There's no way we can get to every question, but we're going to try to get to as many or as wide and diverse of a group of questions as we possibly can. So are you ready? You got somebody?
Thank you, Chris. So let's start with a question from a student. Does any student have a question they'd like to ask to the panel? Right here.
Do you use an LLM to create the most optimal prompt for the vibe coding platform? And if so, which one is the best for that?
Sorry, what did you say? Do you use an LLM to prompt for the vibe coding platform?
Oh, I don't personally, but some of my employees do. Generally, I'm just looking at the code and, I kind of understand what I'm building and I just ask it to solve the specific problem that I think it's running into. Or just look at the errors and everything and understand, okay, this is why it's happening. But I do like to, if I'm using Lovable, for example, I'll use the chat function, which is kind of like that, asking it, okay, here's the problem, what might be the solution? Generally, I do a little research to know what that solution is already. So I'm not going in blind.
I think to add to that, if you don't know what prompt to put into Lovable, it's really easy with AI to, like the marketing is all just, let us think for you. So write me a prompt that writes this website, what do I do? And it spits something out, and that's great. But what I'll try to do instead is teach me what I need to do to put this thing into Lovable to accomplish my goal, and then I'll question every single element of what it says, and then that turns into a learning activity as opposed to just spit something out, I just want to get going. Your brain is the most important part. You're the main character in this story. So if you don't know, it's great to use an LLM to teach yourself so that you can be like him and not have to use it.
One thing I'd recommend if you do use an LLM to do the prompting is to extract the constraints of the system that you're asking to prompt for and put those in the prompt so that the LLM knows what that system is capable of doing. This was a lesson we learned with Durable, where initially our product had just an input prompt box to put in the thing you wanted to build, the workflow or the agent. And I was actually quite difficult for folks to just put something in there because I think we're all used to a conversation being a mechanism of distilling an idea down to something. And they didn't know what Durable was capable of doing. I mean, there's guardrails in any system. And so we found that a conversational front end, so what you're suggesting, we basically put that in the product, where it was a conversational front end where you would be like, you can start with a problem, not even a solution. I have a problem. I'm spending too much time scheduling calls over email. That leads you down to building an agent to help you CC it and help you schedule calls. But you might not know that that's possible with the platform, or that's even what you want. But there's a danger of hijacking your idea, hijacking your brain, and sort of like and biasing your thoughts. So.
Okay, next question. Anybody over here?
I have a question in the back here.
Hi, guys. Thank you for your presentation. So obviously you guys have teams, you've built some companies surrounding AI. If you're looking to hire developers, what kind of developers specifically are you looking to hire, and where are you looking to find these people?
Well, my team is based mainly in Boston and Argentina, but we all work remotely, so location is not necessarily a constraint unless I'm hiring for a client and they need to be in California, for example. But developers in general that I'm looking for are ones that can code. I want to see it before I actually hire you. So usually I vet them in that way, like they show me what they're building and they can actually type and code themselves. But in addition, I also want to see that they understand how to leverage AI. So, building these things on a weekend, like we're saying, that's actually not as quick as we build. We actually go through and do every step necessary to make sure it's feature complete and actually safe and secure and production ready. So yes, I can build something pretty quick on a weekend, but usually that's a small prototype. And I want to see that, yes, you have the understanding of how to vibe code, because I think it makes the process a lot faster. 0 to 1 can be in a month to 3 months instead of 9 months or 2 years of building.
Yeah, so that was my audience plant, because this is actually the business that I have. I think that there's an arms race around better resumes, better cover letters, and it's basically destroyed the hiring market. And I think that my advice is what you should do is go talk to people and make relationships with them and be curious about the problems that they have and seek to try to solve some of those problems or make those problems solvable to you. This is, spoiler alert, what we were doing 25 years ago when I got out of college. And so I think networking plays an important role in today's economy, when a computer can make somebody who's not as good as you sound as good as you. You are actually the most important part of that.
Okay, back here in the back. And if you have a question, raise your hand so Dan can see you.
Great presentation, thank you. As an educator here at CU, would you recommend continue teaching coding or vibe coding? Education, call it higher ed, high school, elementary.
Please continue to teach computer science. I'll say the game has changed. You can be a lot more productive, but if you don't have mastery over the things that you're building, heaven help the people that are going to be downstream of that, because it's just a disaster. Like the volume, you used to be constrained by typing speed. That is not the case anymore. The volume of code that a single person can output is unlimited. So now it's all about quality. And I don't know a mechanism to get there without a true understanding of the fundamentals. Like, you don't need to know assembly, but unfortunately the abstraction level hasn't risen too much above the code for engineers.
But I will say, though, when I learned software and bought a 500-page book, and I was able to read through that book and actually get something out of it and build skills out of it, that was fantastic for me in 2001. But most people can't do that, and most people don't want to do that. And so I think that the democratization and lowering the barrier of entry of being able to utilize these tools in order to gain that expertise is fantastic, and I think education should be utilizing that to the end that he was talking about, where you can't just stop at the basics and you have to use that as an entry point to dig into the actual details.
Yeah, and don't forget to express your curiosity and learn from the tools. Like, Lovable or anything like that, it's just a tool to teach you how to do something better. And it can be a trap as well. So, you can end up with 10,000 lines of code that aren't useful. But if you know the fundamentals, you're not even going to have that 10,000 lines of code anyway. You're going to go page by page and understand the function that you're building. And it does go back to fundamentals. But definitely I would recommend embracing learning how these tools work, and also trying to build your own little editor tool as well and learn from it, because having a multi-agent system is maybe really daunting and scary for people that don't have any experience. But really dive into the code and understand it. And if you're here taking classes, ask your teachers about the code and really understand the problems that arise and solutions to solve them.
Okay, next question here in the back, or on the side.
Hey guys, I was gonna ask you guys, if you guys were robbed of all of your skill sets tomorrow and you had to find the highest leverage path, so that best 80-20, to equip yourself to provide the most value to specifically businesses, what would your roadmap for learning and acquiring those skills look like? Would you be as specific and actionable as possible, like specific coding languages? What are you looking at? Any specific courses? Step by step, as actionable as possible, please. Thank you.
Well, if you're talking about, if I were to start from zero and learn again, I guess taking any courses in what you're really passionate about. Say you really like how videos are made. Understand how videos are made, understand the production quality, and you can learn from AI, you can learn from anything to create that awesome, really high performance thing, just like something you saw in our presentation. It was partly made with AI, but you have to understand the tools. So if you're building with, Lovable or something like that, really embrace being there to learn about how things are built, not necessarily trying to build the end solution all the time. So, and also be open to starting over and take a class. We offer a class about Lovable at a class with Harry, for example, if you just want to know the tools and the best practices. And in general, there's a lot of content out there, so you can always learn in that way. But, the fundamentals are always the best.
This is such a great question. I think it's never been easier to learn. So I think, it's just incredible. I feel like when I was learning, I was just relatively impoverished. It was just really hard to learn stuff. You're just getting access. So honing that skill, time yourself. How quickly can you deeply learn something and then quiz yourself? And you have the tools now to do that. But then I would specifically pitch 2 skills that I think are really important right now. The first one is obvious. This is a very technical. We're in a technical part of the university. It's a technical crowd. Is the technology. Know the technology so that you can build. But then I think an often overlooked skill is what a good product manager does, which is understand a problem deeply and understand what a solution looks like, such that that solution can be distributed and can be loved and can improve the situation of that. That's a really, really hard skill that often has nothing to do with technology, and I think often overlooked in technology programs. But in the spirit of being entrepreneurial, and CU is actually doing super well there, I think those 2 skills today can be learned much faster and together are very powerful.
Yeah, I would echo the focus on the problem. There is a problem in front of you that you can solve with your skill set, and AI can help you solve that problem better than ever before. And so, focusing on the problem, I really want to repeat that. The other thing that I think is important and often overlooked is the importance of progressive overload, which is kind of a workout term. Like if you're benching 100 pounds, next week, try to bench 102.5 or 105 or whatever. There's a next thing for you that if you're solving a problem and you find what's next and you dig into that and you iterate, you're going to be unstoppable in a few years. Most people aren't that engaged into their learning in a real world way. And so finding your progressive overload, what's next for you, even if it's not as good as the person next to you, don't worry about that. Worry about yourself and your own journey and what's next for you.
Right here in the middle of the room.
Thanks. Great talks, by the way. So I'm a kind of person, I'm a scientist, right? So I know the end thing I want, and it's complicated. So I'm just wondering how far you can go with this. I'll use the almost house example. Could the next step be that you, as the house builder, could upload all of the building codes and then make a house that, I'm wondering how far you can go without having to go spend all the money with somebody else, just in general.
Yeah, this is such a timely question. A friend of mine is he's a co-founder of a company that does prefab homes autonomously, and actually they found that they could upload building codes and find things that humans missed, like disagreements between like a drawing and the building codes. Building codes are basically program constraints, and they're so complicated. But your question of how far can you go is really a fundamental one in AI right now, which is the task length. How long, it just takes some time to build one of these things. And the fundamental lever that I would suggest everyone really pay attention to is the task length. Task length right now, estimates vary. Some there's a lot of hype, but my estimate is like around about half an hour. You can let an agent, kind of build for about half an hour before it completely loses coherence and loses its mind, and then you have to do it. So that basically sets a complexity limit to what you can build, and all these tools are underneath using the same technology, which bestows the same task length. There's some breakouts, but it's actually not clear that they have made some fundamental breakthroughs.
Okay, next question, left side of the room from the speaker's perspective.
How are you contracting the automations that you're selling to your clients, and how do you account for ongoing maintenance and improvements thereon?
Me? Yeah.
For Thomas.
So with any of our clients, whether they're like large enterprise or like in the startup phase, we always want them to grow, obviously. So as they grow, we're going to build something in the first place that's scalable, so they can actually use it for millions of people. But you usually come up with 1 million features after that. Like, you go through this iteration process, you really understand the problem, because even if you're in a big enterprise and you're like, okay, I have this inventory system that is massive, and I'm using this tool because this is what was sold to me. I learn, as I build a solution for myself that is actually tailored to the business, from producing a product to shipping it to someone to seeing the point of sale. You find a bunch of extra features, and you usually want to build them. So after we build this thing for 2 months, we learn a lot from it. We end up adding more features, but also there's some maintenance that has to be done. If there's any vulnerabilities that are found for some reason, or any feedback, as people are using products, there's usually always feedback. Some of it is very valid, some of it is not. So getting a large sample size in anything, just in the scientific way, is always good. So you don't waste your time building a feature that is actually not useful for someone, because it's not solving a real problem, just a want rather than a need.
Okay, back to the center of the room here.
Thank you. So first of all, Michael, I love what you said about cognitive offloading. Heaven help us if we all become glorified prompt generators. So I came in here thinking that vibe coding is really best for MVPs and rapid prototypes and that type of thing, and I don't think I'm swayed otherwise. I heard that you may go into Claude and think that you can do some vibe coding, but then you need something like Lovable on top of it to give you more of an environment, and maybe you need a durable because you're going to talk to other applications. We haven't talked about testing. We haven't talked about open sources. So how big a distance, how far are we from vibe coding, to getting to a true enterprise grade application, or is this really just about MVPs and rapid prototyping?
I'll start. We've built enterprise grade applications. Not just MVPs. That's usually like the start. We'll try to get something out really fast so we can iterate on it. But honestly, we're going through and looking at all the data logs, from PostHog or DataHog, and we're like looking at any of the SonarQube linter issues or any vulnerabilities, and we're going through and actually making them production ready. making sure that anything is encrypted that has to be encrypted. You can do it vibe coding, but it does take a lot of time. It's not like it's going to happen in a weekend. So I would say, take the time, learn if you don't know how to do something, and it is possible, and there are apps out there. We built a bunch.
You want to go next?
Just since you mentioned durable, I mean, our goal has always been 100% autonomy, and the compromise is reduced scope. Yeah. And that's what we have delivered to our early customers, which is you can press play, and that means there's a whole host of tools that we have had to build, user-facing tools, to give supervision ability, monitoring ability, observability. What am I running? What is it doing? Can I stop it? Can I, get introspection? We've had to, and that's all new. It's kind of a new world where you're doing these things. So I think as the complexity ratchets up, then it's not 100% autonomous. Then you need that. You have to cover the gap.
Yeah, I might add to that. Like the software that we're making at our company is not vibe coded at all. It's a software product that we want to be valuable, that the software is the asset. And I think that vibe coding is horrible for that. In my opinion, it's great for if you, like in these use cases, if you're in an enterprise system with a set of efficiencies that could be better utilized with automation. Like that's a set system. Their core asset is not the software. Their core asset is something else, and they just need to glue some things together. That's great. I don't know if I've made an enemy out of you because I want to be friends, but I mean, is that what you're seeing too? It's like we're in a company. There's a chief marketing officer that's very frustrated that they can't get their development team to do this thing. That's not their core asset. Let's help them make it better. Is that the kind of thing that you're both seeing in your businesses?
Well, they certainly are having frustrations and trying to make things.
It's not their core business that you're helping them with.
Often it is the core business. So like supporting easy sells for large corporations are usually, can I make more sales? With Dude Wipes, they want to make more sales.
But Dude Wipes is their core thing.
Yeah, you mean the physical products? Yeah.
So
But you're supporting
them
it.
to make it more efficient.
For sure. Yeah, you're always, software is supporting the business of usually physical things or tangible things in our lives. But software itself can be built that is unrelated to physical things as well. So you can perform an action for someone that is basically a service, which is a million of these software for service startups. So it depends on the startup, whether it's a physical product company or if it's simply software.
Okay, next question in the front. We have about 5 minutes, so we're in the lightning round.
Oh, there you go.
Well, very similar to his question. So I'm not a developer. I'm more on the product, user experience side, and solopreneur, have an idea for a website. And my first thought is, I just want to create a clickable prototype. Like I want to start from the user experience, have something that I can put in front of people and scale it from there, and then get into the back end, connect it where it actually has to have real functionality. So what would you recommend? Like, is that something your platform support, or how do I take that approach for someone in my position?
Yeah, so about 12 years ago, I started my first, hardware software startup, and I had the same approach in the beginning. I made clickable wireframes just to get tons of user testing and actually I didn't know that parking was such a big problem, but we automated the private parking garage. So we used license plate recognition, Bluetooth authentication, and then there's obviously UIs that go along with that. But in general, my goal was to build something in a dirty business that's not looked at. And I had no experience in it, but I was super passionate about building something cool. So if you know that you have a niche that's really apparent to you, I would say that's a perfectly good starting point, and really talk to your users, understand the real problems that they're having. Not your problems necessarily. You're always going to understand yours the most, obviously, and that's probably what brought this to the surface in the first place. Same thing with anyone working in a company. But I love that approach because it's design-centric. You want to get the feedback, see if they actually care about it first, and then go from there.
Okay, on the speaker's right.
I was just at a different AI session downtown at the Colorado Startup about AI and IP, right? And basically my point was that one of the big challenges as creatives we have is that we're worried that it's just going to steal our ideas and put them out there. And in, for example, Lovable is if I build my own apps in there, can I make it not share with, not learn from it? Can I have it build for me, but not suddenly be out there into the, the network? Is that, and if not, how do I do that?
I don't have any answers, but I really like that you bring this up. I think about this a lot. One of the technical leaders in the space of AI said that the internet was like oil, and the models use it all up. And now we have a problem where where's more data going to come from? But one thing that gets lost in that is the incentive structures that resulted in that data. There was a reason to go put stuff up on the internet because you were assigned some credit and maybe you could get some ad revenue, blah, blah, blah. There's a whole incentive structure. I don't know if that incentive structure will survive. And so, what's going to happen next? I'm not sure. But what we're seeing right now is that model providers are paying for data. So they're getting experts and they're paying them to produce data for the models. So we might actually return to a prior mechanism before the internet. If you remember encyclopedias, I used to read them when I was a kid. And, an encyclopedia is a company who pays people to, and is a curator of information. So we might actually revert to an older mechanism where these model providers become curators of information. They pay experts, they get the information, they vet it, and we don't have the incentives for an open internet anymore. That'll be sad, but I think that's one of the possibilities.
I think like IP, being scared of IP and losing it, I would say that models are probably not going to take your idea and build it tomorrow. So I wouldn't be afraid of putting it out in the ether in that way because they're not smart enough yet. Maybe in 10 years or 20 years. But I would say that it's a really good, valid fear, but I would still just build. Yeah, replicating. That makes sense. I find that it's usually not the piece that you built, but the sum of the parts that make your product, whatever you're building. So yeah, you might have that one problem and you asked a really good question and it gave you a great result, but most likely they're not building the same thing as you. But certainly a UI or something, that's replicable, but not the real thing. Not Lovable in particular, but they interface with everyone from Cloud Code to ChatGPT, et cetera. And they're using their API, which is open. So that data is definitely being fed into a network. If you were building it locally and you had only local tools like Olama or something like that, and you're hacking it together, they have no access to your data. But if you're using something like Lovable or Cloud Code or anything else, they definitely do. But again, it's the sum of the parts that makes the real IP, not that one thing that you might be solving for. Do you have any comments?
Okay, I think we're out of time. Please join me in thanking the speakers. I just want to say I'm still excited about vibe coding, but maybe a little bit more sober view of it.